Lagos, once a dog has all roots.
Be the first to know. From the north, south, east, west and around Africa, we break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news spreads. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV,
24-hour news station.
Good to have you join us on Core Digest this morning, the Thursday edition. And you know, people have given different excuses for the many challenges facing this nation. Some have said it's bad governance. Others have said it is the attitude of politicians, which also you can link to bad governance. Some have said it's lack of education. Some have said it is the ethnic division that we suffer as a nation. Others attribute it to religion. But exactly what is the problem with Nigeria? This morning we're talking about Boko Haram, the bloodbath in Kano. Of course, we heard about what happened to students of the College of Education in Kano, how there was a bomb and gun attack, and that exactly we're talking about. We cannot overemphasize the fact that we need intervention as it concerns the security aspect of this nation, and that is why we have two guests on the program this morning. Of course, the other half will be talking about death for mutiny, between emotions and the law. But the first one we're talking about is the issue of Boko Haram and the attack that happened in Kano. And with us this morning is Ayodele Adewale. Someone actually called him Comrade. Comrade Ayodele Adewale, Executive Secretary, Amuwo-Odofin Local Government, Lagos. And we have Fred Isiako, a legal practitioner in the studio. You're welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Earlier this morning when we were doing our dailies, I actually pointed out that some have said that hope is the cheapest means of escape for we Nigerians. The point we are now in Nigeria, earlier this week we heard about the disappearance of a fighter jet. It was a repelling mission we went for, but we had to lose our fighter jets to these insurgents. At this point where we are at in Nigeria, as Nigerians, should we just continue to hope, or what do you think can be done at this present situation? Let me start with you.
Thank you for having me. I'm Executive Chairman of Amuwo-Odofin Local Government.
We're so sorry about that.
Talking to the discourse of the day, I believe that it is good to be very hopeful, but it's more important to be practical on issues and plan towards attaining a particular height. If you have a nation that is not planning towards a goal, and you keep having many of these miscues that we are having now, I believe that we should go back to the drawing board, see where we have missed it, and try to put ourselves back on track. And I also come from a school of thought that you must have a very good foundation for any sundry matters or any sundry thing that you want to lay on it. And the foundation, the bedrock, still lies in the educational sector. The nation has not well prepared its citizenry towards tackling many of these integrals of developmental issues, be it in engineering, be it in the military, which involves security, be it in commerce and all of that. You must understand that it's the human being that will drive the system. And when the labor force is ill-prepared, you're going to be having all manner of things. And we quickly, in this part of the world, embrace spirituality and thinking that prayers alone will give us solutions to our problems. Prayer is very good. Prayer is good. Prayer answers a lot of things. But again, the Bible also says that we must pray and watch. The act of watching is the act of walking. And for you to walk, you must be endured enough to have the capacity to do that function of work.
All right, thank you very much, and I'm so sorry for introducing you as the secretary.
No problem.
Let me do that all over again. Comrade Ayodele Adewale is the executive chairman of Amuodofin local government. And now to you, barrister. He said we should go back to the drawing board and check where we missed it. Where do you think we missed it as a nation to have come to this point?
It's a whole lot of issues discussing Nigeria's march towards nationhood, discussing Nigeria's march towards national development, and then having an appraisal of where we missed it. It cannot be pinpointed to a particular direction as to where and when we missed it. A lot of people will tell you that the military incursion in 1966 has derailed Nigerian state. Some others will tell you that Nigeria was not even ready for national leadership as our 1960 that we had the independence. Some others will even tell you that the military have overstayed in power had affected the entire fabric of the national life, wherein every aspect of our national life was not only militarized, but not given the necessary attention that it deserves, because the soldiers were ill-prepared for leadership. Some others, some school of thought will even tell you that many years after the military had exited power, we are looking at least from 1999 until date, that civilian democracy has come to Nigeria, that it is long enough for the country to have been redirected on the path of sanity. So it's a whole lot of opinion, and it's a whole lot of ideas about where we missed it. But I must agree with my friend Ayodele that the educational sector all over the world is the bedrock of national development, because the worst man to lead is an illiterate. The worst man to lead is somebody who is ignorant. The worst man to lead is somebody who is not knowledgeable even of his own self. So any nation that wants to make progress must invest heavily in education and ensure that majority of the people understand what is called national development, and so that they'll be able to put in their very best towards achieving such. And what we see in Nigeria does not lend credence to that. This is a country where Nigeria is ranking one of the lowest in Human Development Index, of which education is one of the criteria. This is a country where over 14 million children are out of school. How many people are in other smaller countries? There are countries in this world that are less than 1 million. So if we have about 14 million people out of school, that tells you about 14 nations out of school. So it's a very worrisome development. And it is expected that leaders who are opportuned to know the value of education must begin to bring that into the front burner. But then they will not be able to do that if the driving force is not sanitized. And what is driving force? The driving force in every economy is politics. The driving force in every society is politics, because it is politics that determines how allocation of scarce resources of the country is shared, and then which sector gets what and which sector gets what. So it is very important that we sanitize the political system. And how do you sanitize the political system? First, you sanitize the process of electing the leadership. And once you get that done and get it correctly, you sanitize the political system, you now bring in the correct and proper people to lead the nation. That way, they'll be able to prioritize the affairs of this country and know what takes preference over another. That way, we'll begin to build blocks of national development. and we'll get out of the woods.
Okay, somehow, one way or the other, you both agreed that we've missed it as a nation. And of course, education. But you know that education would not bring the immediate solution. The only trust we have now as a nation is in the military. But how would you even evaluate that trust when the military authority claims that there was a repelling that was done against Boko Haram, and the residents of that place come out to say it is not true? Do we keep trusting in the military of this country?
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. The first structure of combating this insecurity still lies in our enforcement unit. And the enforcer of this, in question now, is the military. And of course, some level of paramilitary organizations that are there. But I am a realist. As much as we want a speedy approach towards solving these issues, you must also look at the long-term solutions also. So if you're bringing the speedy approach, you can't negate the long term. So the long term will always be at the back of the frontal approach towards solving these problems. And like I said, we go back to the integrity ab initio. And if you want a good nation, you must prepare your citizenry towards the challenges that will emanate as they continue in life. And you must teach them on how to handle things. Otherwise, you have people with vague minds, and the vaguity of minds might not be able to cope with a lot of sundries that would prop up. But for me, the military is still very, very professional. They need a lot of boost in it, and that's why you have bilateral agreements among nations. If we see that our military, as it is right now, needs some level of assistance, there's nothing wrong in our nation to invite nations that have, been confronted with such issues, and they've been able to stem down or stem out these matters and embrace them. And they come in, teach our military personnel on how to handle this matter. And not only that, we equip them very well. And this time around, it's not about politicizing it or turning it into an economic stream for our self-gains. But we must be very practical about this. And the populace also must come in, because they must give information. We must spend a lot of money on intelligence. And the guardian of intelligence is no tea party. It's not a cup of tea. You have to really invest in it. And while investing in it, you also build trust. Because if I'm giving you information, my immediate security is important for me. You must be able to shield me off, and you must be able to provide for me in order to take me out of this abysmal of nothingness. I mean, you want to take information from somebody that is very hungry, you use the bait approach. The bait approach is that you lure them. You lure them. By luring them, you also build confidence, and they become your appendage towards solving these issues. And you also let them understand that, look, the piece of the tree is the piece of the bird. If the area is calm, definitely you can lay on it. Your economic activities will develop, your social activities will develop, and every other integrals of society will also develop. So trust is not something you just build in a day. Trust is like glass. And if you break it, it's very difficult for you to mend it.
First, Nigerians were asking questions of how these insurgents actually got their equipment, their weapons, how armored vehicles will come into the country, and we do not know how it gets to them when it's not like a pin, and no military officer is aware that these huge vehicles are passing by. Now, we heard the issue of the fighter jets gone missing, and the reaction of the army authorities saying they have a fair knowledge of the whereabouts. What's your reaction to this whole situation playing itself out?
It only exposes the level of porosity of the Nigerian system. Nigeria is so porous not only along its borders, but also porous in its morality, porous in its administrative competence, porous in its will to carry through the ideals of national development. Porous in its determination to bring cohesiveness among the various diverse ethnic nationalities in this country. Porous in so many things. And this only throws up the level of all these porosities. As we speak, there are several theories surrounding Boko Haram. Several. Some people have propounded the theories of religiosity, the theories of political inclination, the theories of ethnicity, the theories of the struggle for power, and the rest of them. And the theories of sheer ignorance occasioned by very low level of education among the insurgents. But in all this, it further still exposes the porosity of the Nigerian state. It beats anybody's imagination that huge equipment like armored tank will enter Nigerian system without any of the authorities knowing it. It beats anybody that so many number of trucks, jeeps, facilities, mobilities used by the Boko Haram insurgents will enter into this system without anybody knowing it. Some others will tell you that those who know, but they decide to close their eyes. That some other will even tell you that those who know are even the facilitators towards these things coming in. Otherwise, why would Boko Haram be defeated in Cameroon and not be defeated in Nigeria? Why would Boko Haram not be operating in Chad and not be operating in Niger and operating in Nigeria at the fringes with these countries? The people who believe such are those who come from the school of thought that Boko Haram is essentially politics. And those who believe that it is essentially politics are pointing accusing fingers at 2015 and pointing accusing fingers at the seat of power called Asorok Villa. That it is the struggle of deciding who occupied that seat come May 29, 2016 that has led to the build-up of Boko Haram and the rest of them. Does it not beat anybody that many months, today we are counting 150-something days down the line, that the Chibok girls were kidnapped and nobody has come up with some solution. Instead, what we are getting is some level of politicking occasioned by even foreigners that came from Australia and the rest of them. So the whole thing tells you about the porosity of the Nigerian nation. The question now is, how do we begin to patch these leakages? How do we begin to block these holes in our system? How do we begin to make this country to come together as a nation and take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations? A nation that is robustly, hugely blessed by nature. A nation that should in no way have any problem with feeding its populace. A nation that is so blessed that nobody should be hungry or poor in Nigeria. Yet, over 70-80% of the people are poor, and over 60% are living below $1 a day. I mean, it's a paradox, and a terrible, worrisome paradox.
You mentioned the porosity of the country,
yes.
And it's either some people know and they decide to keep quiet,
exactly.
Or they even aid this insurgency.
Yes.
We know that the federal government took on the service of an Australian negotiator, Stephen Davis, who actually named the former Governor of Borno State, Alimodu Sharif, and the past Chief of Army Staff, Ihe Jirika. And of course, we had the spokesperson of DSS coming out to say these persons have served Nigeria so well, and it will be bad to pay them back in such a light. What is your opinion to this reaction and counter-reaction?
Well, my opinion is, one, I don't have facts in my hands to determine the authentic nature of any of those statements. I can only say that the security operatives should work within the ambit of law and understand that the integrity of the country is what is most important, and the safety of our citizens is also very, very important. And the unity of the country is above every other interest. So And the press itself, if you look at international communities, higher climes, the press has a fundamental role to play in terms of whistleblowing. If people have said all manner of things, the press can also help us to investigate this matter. And we have seen society where the press, with their whistleblowing, have been able to bring this information to the fore and the general public knowing what is going on, and such issues have been resolved, and those who are responsible for such matters are brought to justice. So it's everybody's duty. Like I said, I don't have the information, and we are observing what is happening, and in due course the truth will be made known.
I'll come to you with that same question. With what, at this critical time and with such a sensitive information, which should we choose between investigation and emotions?
I think you made reference to Stephen Davis, and you said that federal government engaged Stephen Davis. I think we may need to correct that, because federal government has come out to say that they never engaged Stephen Davis. But we don't know what is right and what is wrong. We were not there at the point of engagement. But so many people will feel that Stephen Davis should not just be an ordinary meddlesome interloper who will leave Australia to come to Nigeria to go and begin to take risks to talk to the insurgents. And that there must have been some level of high-level networking that has brought Stephen Davis in. Let us take everybody for his words, and let us operate on that level of trust. That yes, Stephen Davis came in, but somebody must have brought in Stephen Davis. And then Stephen Davis was said to have negotiated on behalf of the government then when the Niger Delta militants were troubling that region, and that he made a success out of it. So that has lent credence to the fact that Stephen Davis can parade himself as a top flight negotiator, and that the fact that he possibly, having done that, he possibly may have been re-engaged to handle this aspect. But with the denial by the agencies of government, it has now put everybody in utter confusion and bewilderment. And then some people are beginning to talk. Those who support the federal government, hook, line, and sinker, are beginning to talk that Stephen Davis was even brought in by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to rubbish the integrity and the efforts of President Jonathan. Such statement came out from the mouth of people like Asare Dokubo, who Nigerians have said should not be taken for a pinch of salt. But it is also neither here nor there. And that is why I keep saying that as much as government business must be treated with utmost confidentiality, but it must not be treated with secrecy. Nigerians should understand there's a difference between confidentiality and secrecy in the handling of affairs of government. We have abused that international decorum of confidentiality in governance, and we have replaced that with secrecy. And when things are done in utter darkness, the rest is left to the conjecture of the rest of the people who should have information about the goings on in government. So, as we speak, the things that brought Stephen Davis here and the issues all surrounding around Stephen Davis have now been enmeshed in politics, and nobody is going to take any serious step towards believing all those things. Now, Boko Haram is still rampaging. As we speak, just yesterday, over 60-something people died. Majority of them in a higher institution, in an institution of higher learning. And it has become so statistical that Nigerians are no longer being shocked about huge loss of lives in this nation. Yes, we are populous. Yes, we are many, but God did not make us many for us to begin to decimate that population. He has his own structure of taking his creatures one after the other. He did not ask anybody to assist him in reducing the population of Nigeria. And meanwhile, there are many countries of the world that are many times more populous than we are, and they are living well, happily, everybody feeding himself and then contributing to national development. Why must our own be different? And that calls for thorough reappraisal of our system. We are in dire strides in this nation. As we speak, we are. And as 2015 approaches, the tendency is increasing. The challenges are mounting. The apprehension and the disturbances are also increasing. It is the duty of those in power, those who have the mandate of the people to safeguard lives and property, to do things that are meaningful towards arresting these situations. But what do we see? Today, so many top military brass are accused of being multi-billionaires as a result of the gains they are making from insurgency. So, how do you begin to look at all that? How? We will look at all that in details when we come to the next segment that you earlier advertised with respect to the mutiny and then the sentencing of those 12 unfortunate soldiers.
And that is when we have to employ your expertise
no, we will,
as a legal practitioner. I'm coming to you again, Chairman. Talking about this whole issue of death, like you rightly said, Nigeria has become a place where you hear 300 people dead, and it doesn't really shake you any longer because we're used to that number. Let's begin to talk about how this whole thing can end. Because before we thought it was something God would clear for us overnight. It's something we could pray about. But with the installation of 2 emirs in the northeastern part of the country and the declaration of Islamic Caliphate, how do you think, or what solution do you think we can bring to this situation?
For me, it's sincerity of purpose. Sincerity of purpose, and this also is a lesson for everybody in the country, that wherever you find yourself, either in government or in public service or in business, your private service and all whatnot, let's try as much as possible to create a difference, create opportunity for people to survive. Try as much as possible to get everybody busy, because there's a saying that an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And when you look at countries that have been providing welfare structure for their citizenry, it's not as if they are wasteful or they don't know what they're doing. Perhaps they have foreseen all of this insecurity, that it's possible that it can ravage them in their own territory or in their own society. So they try as much as possible to create avenues for people either to grow according to their peculiarities, or government come to give succor for them in order to survive. It's all about survival. And when life ceases to have meaning for some people, they can take the extreme. It is the extremity of actions that we're witnessing here in Nigeria. So I use this medium to appeal more to our people in government to be very, very sincere in their operational dealings, and of course try to fulfill the electoral promises that they've made to their people. Try to make life more meaningful for people in order to solve all of these things. The other part of it are security issues that we might not be able to discuss at this platform because of the sensitive nature of it and how to tackle it. But above all, it's about sincerity.
All right, so come to you. You mentioned 2015 earlier, that all this is a play out and playing towards the 2015 general elections. How do you see the 2015 general elections playing itself out? Is it going to be peaceful? If this whole fight is about tussle for power, how do you see us going out to vote? Is it going to be free, fair, and credible? What do you see coming out, and how do you think we can deal with this as a nation?
The build-up to 2015 will determine how it will go. So far, some people believe that what we see is a tip of the iceberg on what is going to happen as 2015 draws closer. Some others believe that it will fizzle out, that the challenges will fizzle out. But I think that those who believe that the challenges will fizzle out are more living in illusion, because more living in illusion than in reality, because nobody in his widest imagination would have believed then that Boko Haram insurgency would have been sustained up to this moment. Nobody. And the way and manner they keep hitting and attacking Nigerians, recklessly and at will, does not give hope that we are winning the war. It does not. Government had sometimes said that they had pursued the insurgents to the fringes. That was sometime by middle of early this year, that they have pursued the insurgents to the fringes. Weeks after such statement, they hit Abuja 2 times in Nigeria. And since then, they have been randomly hitting some states. Now, it has moved from the northeast. It is no longer Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. It has snowballed into the northwest. They are now hitting Kano and Kaduna. And of course, it's not the first time they are hitting Kano and Kaduna. And that tells you that if they can freely move from one region, from one zone to another, some people have even expressed the fear that the rest of the south is not even safe because they could still hit south. And if this is not contained, definitely people will become so afraid that they will not even want to come out to vote. The very moment it comes down south, people will now clearly understand that the whole thing is all about politics. And naturally, the first law of nature is the law of self-preservation. Nobody will want to go out to cast his vote and risk his or her life. Nobody will want. Nobody will want to go to a political gathering to listen to the rhetorics of politicians that they never intend to keep, only to end up being bombed. People will not come out. And if people don't come out, politicians are determined to win an election. In that case, it has now become a fertile ground for rigging, because there must be a government. Nature does not allow any vacuum. There must be government. And constitutionally, come May 29, some governors must go, some must be sworn in, and there must be a new president, whether it is the current president or a new one. There must be a new government. So, that tells you that there is apprehension in the land. Serious apprehension. And how do we begin to solve it? I expected that by now, a strong think tank would have been established by government to really look deep into these challenges. I had at one forum advocated that National Security Council, which is the highest decision-making body in this country, made up of current and past heads of states and other top leaders of Nigeria, should come together to really look themselves eyeball to eyeball and take a decision on how well to move this country. Because I am of the opinion, I also belong to that school of thought, that 90% of Boko Haram insurgency is political. The other 10% may be masquerading with other reasons. And that means that I belong to the school of thought that it is politics that is driving this insurgency. I have sat down to analyze insurgency in every part of the world, and I have seen politics underlined in all of them.
Well, Ayodele Adewale is a politician in the House. I was expecting you to react to all the accusations of empty promises by politicians as cause for this insurgency in this part of the world.
You see, at times I wonder why people tag a particular class of people in the society as political elements or politicians using their phrase. According to Marx, every man is a political animal, and in our various stratas of life, we all play some form of politics or the other. I think the coinage should be political governance, or people in political stratas or political office, as the case may be. And that is why we tell people that, yes, if you believe you are more correct than the players in politics, political affairs right now, that why don't they also join political groupings, political platforms, political parties, and go for political meetings at the wards, at the local government level, and flush away those who they believe, quote and unquote, are not doing well. Because you cannot give what you don't have. And we must learn to give time. Because it's so ironic when I see people queuing, professors queuing to collect contracts from neophytes in political offices, so to speak. Because these people have more knowledge, they have more contacts, but they don't want to go through the pains of getting elected. At the end of the day, they start agonizing. They don't want to go through the pains of electing those who they believe can do well. So it's everybody's issues now. And that is why in the APC, we came out with a program recently to register a lot of people into our party using the ward structures, the polling booth structures. And we put everybody, our members there, to register people. And we were amazed the turnout of people that came. In fact, I sat in my office one day and I saw a medical doctor, a renowned medical doctor in Amu-Wardofe. He owns a first-line hospital. And he walked up to me that he wants to be a member of the party. I was driving one day and I saw, an illustrious person. He owns several companies. And he flagged me down. And he said he wants to be a member of APC. That how is he going to go about it? And I asked him, where are you living? He told me. And I said, you belong to this particular ward. And I called the councillor to help him attend ward meetings. We need to come in. Everybody needs to come in. We can't just stay from afar and start throwing the pellets and say these people are the ones spoiling the country. You understand? So we must be part of it. And I still believe that the politicians, so to speak, are not the problem. Because you cannot have good leadership without good followership, and vice versa. If your leaders are bad, then look at the followers. It means that the proponents of the followers are also bad, because it is from that constituency that the leaders will come out. You understand? And we must always ask questions. If we are being led wrongly, we should ask questions, and we should mobilize against them. Peaceful, civil protest can bring about a correct thinking to many of our leaders if they are doing wrong. And we also need your platform also. You understand? We need more whistleblowers in the community, because even the so-called political leaders also are afraid. They're very afraid of a mass action. So we must be able to dovetail them into a stream of correct doing, and we must check them regularly.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We've had the Executive Chairman, Amu-Wardofe Local Government Area in Lagos as our guest, and of course, Barrister Fred Nziako, a legal practitioner. And they are still here with us because there is going to be a second part after this break. And then we'll be talking about death for mutiny, between emotions and the law. Of course, we heard about 12 soldiers that have been sentenced to death. That is still subject to the coming together of the army authorities to verify, to certify if that is what it should be. And there have been different reactions trailing this sentence of the 12 soldiers. Different questions on our minds, and that is what we'll be treating on the second part of Core Digest this morning. Don't go away. Please stay with us.
Nigerians continue to travel the city of Lagos. There is still a poor level of
Be the first to know from the north, south, east, west, and around Africa. We break the news.
one Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV.
A 24-hour news station.
Glad to have you join us.
Another edition of The Political Arena, the most detailed and incisive political show.
If you are a sitting governor and the opposition is able to stomach structure against you, that means you are wicked to the people.
Until the end of our time as the legitimate authority to govern this country.
They gave me 20 minutes to move or they will shoot me.
He has no chance for survival. If he likes himself, this is the best time to get out before he perishes.
The PDP as a ruling party has failed.
So anybody who thinks that government will fold his hands and allow miscreants to take over the streets of our own state and cause havoc is deceiving himself.
The good, bad, ugly, and beautiful sides of the Nigerian political system. Join me every Sunday at 9:15 p.m. on Core TV News.
You can now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then news. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
It's the second part of Core Digest, and we're talking about death for mutiny. Between emotions and the law, what does the law say when such actions are being carried out? We remember the attack against the GOC that visited the 7th Division in the northeastern part of the country, and it was shot at, and that has been described as mutiny. And we heard about the constitution of the court-martial, where 18 soldiers were brought under trial, and at the end of the day, we had 12 facing the death sentence. And of course, some have argued that what exactly do you describe as mutiny? We have a legal practitioner in the house to tell us what that is, and the situation, the context under which this whole thing played itself out. We had men of the Nigerian army protesting against sabotage when some of their colleagues were brought in dead, and they were complaining about being under-equipped, about not being paid well, not being taken care of, not being well kitted to face this insurgency. And of course, in that anger, they attacked their GOC. Some have said trying is not the same thing as carrying out the act. Attempted murder is not the same thing as murder itself. Well, I'm not in the best position to tell you all that. We have someone in the law and a politician in the house who are going to be discussing these issues with us. But before then, let us take this report.
These are the 18 soldiers who were said to have led the May 15 mutiny in Maiduguri. For several weeks, they have been facing a court-martial away from media glare. But it's now Judgment Day, and for the first time, journalists were allowed into the venue of the court-martial. The soldiers, who are mostly privates, are facing a 6-count charge bordering on mutiny, an offense considered grievous in the military. Even their countenance showed how bad the situation is. The president of the court-martial gave an insight into the matter, and lawyers representing the soldiers pleaded for mercy.
The accused persons committed acts or acts of insubordination against their commander or against the commander of 7th Division Nigerian Army. Under this head, prosecution provided the following evidence. Corporal Jaspo Braidalo, prior to his oral evidence in the court, PW2 Lieutenant Colonel Azenda averred in Exhibit P14 that Corporal Jasper, Corporal Fire Ono, and Private Ifeanyi played prominent roles in the unfortunate incident. He maintained this allegation in Exhibit P12 when he said in answer to question 29, which group of soldiers in your battalion revolted against the General Officer commanding 7th Div? And he said Corporal Jasper Braidalo, Lance Corporal Friday Ono, and Private Ifeanyi Alugagbe should be able to help in this regard. In his answer to question 56, PW2 specifically pinned Corporal Jasper as one who inspired the rebellion, and that the 3 soldiers he mentioned were among the rampaging soldiers.
After the 9-member board returned from a short break, it was clear that the lawyer's plea failed to sway the military court. 12 of the 18 soldiers were found guilty on 3 of the 6 charges.
For count 5, Awo, you were found guilty. You are sentenced to 28 days IHL. 2010 NA of the 65-6912 Private Chocho Jeremiah. For count 6, you are reprimanded. IHL means imprisonment with hard labor. 28 days imprisonment with hard labor. And for count 6, you are reprimanded. 03 NA of the 53 of the 816 Lance Corporal Stephen Clement. For count 3, you were found guilty and you are therefore sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. But for count 4, mutiny, 2003 NA of the 53 of the 816 Lance Corporal Stephen Clement, you were found guilty for mutiny, therefore sentenced to death by firing squad.
5 others were discharged and acquitted, while 1 was found guilty of absenting himself from duty and is to spend 28 days in jail with hard labor. The court acknowledged the right of the soldiers to appeal the judgment, but also noted that the sentences were subject to confirmation by higher authorities.
Okay, there have been different reactions trailing that particular report you just saw. And we've had legal practitioners like Agbakoba, Olisa Agbakoba, Femi Falano, and Sebastian Horn. In addition, we've had Festus Keyamo and Malaki saying that it is not constitutional. Actually, Agbakoba says that the constitution, the composition rather of the court violated the principle of natural justice. He's asked his lawyers to approach the convicts for the purpose of lodging an appeal against the military authorities. And we've had different others saying that it will dampen the morale of other soldiers who are fighting insurgency. Thank God that we have a lawyer in the house this morning to actually say, is it constitutional? Was it constitutional or not? What was supposed to be the composition of the court-martial? But before we go to him this morning, let's have the reaction of Festus Keyamo and Malaki. Please play the report.
Were they justified, the authorities, to arrest them and charge them for whatever they wanted to charge for mutiny? I think they were justified. The authorities were justified because under no circumstance, even under civilian circumstances, should you shoot at your commander. You can carry your protest out, you can march on the streets. I will even march with the soldiers if they do that, to draw public attention to their problems. But to carry out arms and shoot at their commander in a bid to kill him, nobody will accept that. Having said that, also, the punishment is not commensurate with the crime. The punishment that has been meted out to these soldiers is extremely unjust, it is harsh, and it's unacceptable. You can't, of course, sentence them to death when, in the first place, nobody died in the process.
Now, the nitty-gritty of the sentence of death by firing squad by the court-martial remains a subject of law and legal interpretation. We have had very senior lawyers in this country who have opined that verdict cannot stand if subjected to the crucibles of an appeal. And the reason is simple. Under the section of the Nigerian Armed Forces Act, Section 51, subsection 1, you cannot have a conviction for what those people did because there was no death. The insurrection or mutiny, as they called it, did not lead to death, and you couldn't possibly have a punishment that attract punishment beyond what the law provides. And from that standpoint alone, And as a lawyer, you will agree with me that there are already issues.
Thank you so much for being there. We still have Ayodele Adewale here in the house, Executive Chairman, Amuwo Dofin Local Government Area, and Fred Isiaka, who is a legal practitioner. Let us start with you. Are you going to say that the composition of the court-martial too is not constitutional?
When you say composition, it means the makeup.
The makeup, yes.
Of let's use layman's language. The makeup of that committee, the makeup of that court, the makeup of that tribunal, whatever language that you understand, it is constitutional. It is right because it is pure military business. So when you say composition of the court-martial, we have no problem with the composition. We have every problem with the judgment, or rather the decision, because it is not a proper court, it's a military court. So we don't use the word judgment, we use the word decision. The decision of that court that tried those soldiers. In terms of composition, there's no problem about it. In terms of decision, there's everything that has to do with it that we don't want.
But some legal practitioners have an issue with the fact that there was no fair hearing.
Well, on the issue of fair hearing, the soldiers were asked to defend themselves, and quite a couple of them came with their lawyer. Their lawyer defended them. Fair hearing is not even the crucible. Fair hearing is not even the problem, because as long as they were allowed to go through trial, they were given opportunity to speak. They were given opportunity to be represented by their lawyers. To some extent, it could pass the test of fair hearing. When one is not even allowed to talk at all or to put up any defense whatsoever, that's when you begin to raise the issue of fair hearing. So they were given fair hearing. But fair hearing does not translate to good judgment. Fair hearing alone is only a step towards good judgment. It does not on its own translate to good judgment.
Okay, let's come to you, Comrade Ayodele. We are going to make you represent the people. A layman on the streets thinks soldiers have been fighting insurgency, and the context in which these soldiers protested is the fact that there is sabotage, there is infiltration among the ranks and file of the Nigerian army. Sabotage, not well kitted for the war, being under-equipped. Are we going to say, leaving justice, law, okay, we can't leave justice out, law, because I'm not going to make you interpret the law here. Are we going to say these people can get away with this, given the premise on which it happened?
Well, I'm going to speak like a politician.
Okay.
But of course, I'm going to also speak as a realist. First and foremost, we condemn the act of violence of any form. We condemn the act of violence of any form. Yes, they have the right to express their grievances. But again, there's something called operational dealings. You are in a particular formation. In this context, is a military formation. They have their operational dealings. And of course, I should want to believe that within the context of their operational dealings, they should also have means of expressing their grievances, even if the grievances are not going to be taken. But again, we are talking about an issue of life now. All over the world, I myself, I don't believe in capital punishment, particularly when the person who is presupposedly, affected is still living and is not dead. And the essence of punishment is to correct and not to destroy. But within all of this saying, I still believe that discipline must be enforced, particularly when you are in a military setting. But I will appeal to the military high authorities to take another look at this issue in order not to deplete the rank and files. Yes, for them to have lifted arms against their superior officer is an intention to kill. It's an intention to kill. God forbid if the bullet had hit their GOC, we wouldn't be talking about these issues. But again, they must look at it from another point of view. That if they give clemency, perhaps long sentencing, that again will still drive discipline among the rank and files. Because there's nothing that can be like having absolute freedom. If your freedom is cut short and you're confined to a particular enclave and you're not allowed to move, that alone is a big punishment. But to take life, and we're saying we don't have enough hands to even combat this insurgency on ground. For them to have agreed to lay down their life for the nation is one big sacrifice. So I will appeal to the military high authorities to please take a second look at this thing rather than make them face the firing squad. Perhaps we could give them long sentencing. And of course, we must not compromise discipline. But they also must check themselves. They must check themselves because for the boys to have seen some of their colleagues die, and they feel that if given the enablement, their colleagues would have died. And of course, they know that the same fate that befell them, of course, will also befall they themselves. So they have to take an action. But they took the action to the extreme. But remember, I've said before that peaceful protest would have solved the day. Perhaps they could have come in their multitudes and lay down their arms and confront their GOC. He is human. For him to be at the battlefront with them, he is also sacrificing his own life. So they could have come to terms and meet their GOC. Arms laid down, cartridges removed. Sir, we are facing this horror. If we go, you also are not safe. Why can't we work together in harmony and request for X, Y, Z for us to be able to tackle these issues headlong and we all go back to our families alive? So I think the authorities should look into it again.
You heard other legal practitioners saying that they intended to, he said there was an intention to kill, but there was no actual killing. What does the law say between attempted murder and actual murder?
Let's first clear some fundamental grounds before we go to the issue of what we call in law actus reus and mens rea.
There we go.
The reports we had when this happened were varied. Some people said that the soldiers only shot into the air at a parade ground. And that on its own, at a point where the GOC was addressing the man, it was an act of insubordination. Some others reported that the soldiers actually shot at the GOC in an attempt to kill him. The third version said that the soldiers shot at the GOC's car, because if you see the car of a general with that insignia, the stars, either 1, 2, 3, or 4, depending on his rank, it is assumed that the general is inside the car. So shooting at the car will be interpreted to be shooting at the general himself, at the occupant of that car. So it could be interpreted to mean that the shooter actually wanted to kill the occupant. Out of all these interpretations and reports that we had, it is only the tribunal that should get, in the course of the investigation, to the proper detail as to what happened, and then those that were present. Now, if the tribunal had looked at all this and found these soldiers guilty, we are faulting the decision of the tribunal on so many grounds. Now, the issue of intention and the issue of actual act. In view of this myriad of reports, assuming the soldiers only shot into the air, would you want to tell me or anybody that they wanted to kill the GOC? Assuming the soldiers shot at the GOC's car when he was not there, would you want to tell me that they actually meant to kill him? Now, if the soldiers shot at the GOC directly, why didn't they kill him? See that the GOC is bulletproof, or that the soldiers were not trained as marksmen? If they could not shoot a man and kill him at close range, how do you expect them to kill insurgents that are far-fetched? In the midst of all these theories, you now bring in the law. What was the intention of the soldiers that shot? Did they shoot at the right time? The answer is they did not shoot at the right time, and that is why it has become an offense. Now, what is the punishment for such offense? Did they actually kill their GOC? Or did they shoot him in protest? Or did they just shoot in the air? When you now bring all these things together, you now begin to look at the punishment method on these people. The punishment is capital punishment. Death by firing sword. What does the law say about such issue? This was a war situation, not a peace situation. And no matter how rigid the military procedures and rules are, in every law, there must be an exception. In every law, no matter how tight or rigid it is, there must be consideration for circumstances leading to any action. And what was the consideration? The consideration is that GOC himself is culpable. And that is why the military authorities have relieved him of his duties and have even relieved him of his appointment. That action of the military authorities alone shows that there is some level of culpability on the side of the GOC that may have led this man to release those bullets. Now, what is the level of training, education, and exposure of this man? Lance Corporal, these are rank and file. You now begin to bring psychology into it. What is the capacity of men at that level to be able to carry through their grievances apart from through the butt of the gun and through the trigger that they are accustomed to? You now bring also the issue of the circumstances that led to the wastages of those soldiers that incensed their colleagues, their comrades, to protest against their commander. When you bring all these things into perspective, you also look at the overall interest of the nation and the military forces themselves. It is these men at the rank and file level that are combatants. They are the ones that actually pull the trigger against the enemies. The big ones in the military, they are the directors and commanders. They strategize and they ask the men to go and shoot. And the men go and shoot. When you demoralize the men that go and shoot, what overall interest do you want to achieve? And that is why people are saying that the punishment is like killing an ant with a sledgehammer, and that the military high authorities should reconsider this punishment, although the decision of the court martial is subject to approval by the military high command. And that's why it is apt now to appeal that they mitigate this punishment. And if they fail to mitigate this punishment, the people also have another line of defense, and that is appeal. The court martial is seen as a court of first instance. They can still go to appeal to a civil court of appeal, and that is where all these other issues that will not only be strictly military, will be juxtaposed. National security will be brought to face equity and justice. And then we now know whether those men will go scot-free or whether their sentences will be mitigated. But I stand on the platform of those that believe that the sentencing is too harsh for the offense they committed and must and should be mitigated.
Well, there are opinions in some quarters that Nigerians are beginning to bring emotions into this. Like when you said earlier, you said it would deplete the Nigerian armed forces. But can we put justice? Because if the soldiers, we learned last month when even the wives of the soldiers went on protest and they were saying we cannot release our husbands because they know once you go to face insurgents, they come back home with their dead bodies. And so we're not going to allow that. And the Chief of Army Staff already said the reward for mutiny is death. That had been said since last month. Are we then saying the context under which happened, sabotage, lack of care, lack of equipment, and the reason, the excuse of depletion of the armed forces is enough reason to actually commute the sentence?
Well, the lawyer has said it all, that you must look at the reason for an action. In 1992, I wanted to join the military. That was my dream. In fact, in noble societies, it is an honor for you to join the military. In noble societies, you understand. But I was not opportuned because I had wanted to read engineering in the service then. One or two things, in fact, I could not make it, and I had already purchased the form. My uncle was the deputy commandant of the NDA. He was so happy that I was coming to join the force. It's a noble thing. But within that nobility, when you start having limitations, it compromises the ethics that set up that organization. For you to want to lay your life for a country or your society, that's the extreme sacrifice anybody can give to his own society. And by the time you get there, and somebody is compromising the ethics and, of course, the framework of that organization, it means that it also compromises every strata of the setup, which can lead to its collapse. And that is why I've always said sincerity is very important.
Let me cut you. We have Sunday calling from Warri. Good morning, Sunday.
Hello?
Good morning. You're welcome on the program.
Hello?
Hello, Sunday. Can you turn down the volume on your TV set?
I can hear you. Hello?
You must turn down the volume on your TV set, please, Sunday. Hello, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm watching your program.
All right.
Hello?
Go on, please.
Hello?
Sunday, we can hear you.
Just like what the Mr. Man is saying, that place is a war zone. You understand? Hello?
Go on, please. Okay, we lost that call. Sunday, please try to call us back. And if you must call, you have to turn down the volume on your TV set. Yes, let's continue.
Like I was saying, in some climes like the US, if a US soldier is captured, the whole nation go to rescue that person. It means that the structure of care is there. The structure to provide the logistic for you to be protected, understand? To believe in that, even improving your psychology, building your morale, that you are above thousands of men on the other side, is there. But this is a situation whereby we are not even being told the amount of men that die every day. And they are the war front. They see these things. And they know that they are the next if care is not taken. Yes, all man for himself, God for all. But for God to stand by us, we also must move within the light of knowledge that He has given us and within the ambit of doing the right thing to achieve the greatness that we deserve. So, looking at all of this contradiction, I believe that the hierarchy of the military at the top also know that they lack one or two things. So if I was the head of the military, one thing is for me to come down from my high level, to meet with the men, speak to them, improve on their morals. Yes, we have deficiency in X, Y, Z. That does not mean that we cannot even defeat our enemy with a spear and all of that. It's about moral, it's about courage. Once the courage is built, then your men will move to the battlefront and win the battle. But if all of these issues are there, yes, they have committed a wrong, but you can capitalize on that wrong and make it right. And you earn the respect of all of your men to the extent that they can even fight with their bare hands and confront people with AK-47 and still win the war.
All right, let's get back to you, Barrister. How do you feel this oathing would play? Some say that it is... Okay, we have a call from James in Enugu. James, good morning.
Hold on.
Hello?
We should remember that we have...
Hello, James, good morning.
We have their reason before if at all open fire on the GOC. GOC is in the office. The fighting soldiers, they are in the war front. They might have had their reason for such action. Nigeria should look into it. If this action is being taken, how many soldiers must we lose for a one GOC? They have their reason before they did so. So please, Nigeria should look into it.
Sorry, James, we would not be able to continue with this calls. We have technical issues and the feedback here is very bad. Please, you might need to call us back. And if you must call, I said it earlier, please turn down the volume on your TV set. Even if it is on mute, you are still going to hear us from the studio. So please do that for us. Thank you so very much. I was talking to you, Barrister. In the midst of this whole thing, some have said that it would be a free gift to the Boko Haram insurgents if we let these 12 soldiers go. But at the same time, putting it side by side with the message it sends to other soldiers. How do you think, like he said, peaceful protests? We had no reports if they had done that before and it did not work and they had to resort to that. What message does it send, whether the sentence holds or it does not? If it holds, what message does it send to Boko Haram insurgents? If it doesn't, what message does it send to other soldiers?
If the sentence is upheld by the military high command that has the internal authority to either uphold, quash, or mitigate the sentencing. If they uphold the sentence, the soldiers have another line of defense, and that is appeal. They will go to court of appeal, and my legal mind tells me that the court of appeal will mitigate the sentence or quash it. So, I'm not even beginning to think of the death of these soldiers. But if at the extreme, these soldiers, the sentence is upheld and the soldiers are executed, it would have done Nigerian nation a lot of disservice. And those who say that it will be a free gift to Boko Haram are right. Because the GOC himself had not been clean. And that is why the military authorities, I wouldn't call that a soft landing. It's a very huge indictment on either his capacity or his competence or his omission or commission. But whatever that has happened must have come partly out of his own direct responsibility. And like I said, the men, the rank and file, are at the mercy of their commanders in terms of direction and even welfare. If those commanders fail in their responsibility, it now becomes a free fall. And that is why the military is structured in a manner that you must conform. Go, you go. Come, you come. If the man that has the authority to say go will tell you to go and put yourself inside a burning fire. Now, the other side of you, which makes you a human being that seeks self-preservation, will want to react, command structure notwithstanding. So, it will not do Nigeria any good to execute those men. Like my comrade friend has said, and many others have said, I join my voice to say, prison sentence is enough. It is enough deterrent, and it is enough lesson to other men that may think in this direction. We condemn mutiny, we condemn insurrection, we condemn insubordination, because that is not the hallmark of the military structure. But we also condemn killing the ant with a sledgehammer.
Okay, that seems to be the opinion for a huge number of people in Nigeria as it concerns the death sentence for 12 soldiers on the premise of mutiny. And that is where we're going to draw the curtains on today's show. It's been a wonderful time with the two gentlemen in the house. We've had Ayodele Adewale, Executive Chairman, Amuwo Dofin, Local Government. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Fred Nziako, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much, Barrister.
Always, thank you.
And thank you to you two for standing the course with us. We expect you to join us again tomorrow on another edition and yet exciting topic for tomorrow. Thank you so much for being there. I am Ebulomo Adekunle.
Nigerians continue to
travel the city of Lagos waits at the dock as all routes
Be the first to know from the north, south, east, west and around Africa. We break the news.
One Nigeria.
Now you can catch all the actions live as the news breaks. We are Core TV News.
Welcome to Core TV.
A 24-hour news station.